Hi guys, in this video, I want to show you how to replace a faucet. And this could be for a bathroom faucet or even in your sink. The process is basically the same. And I also want to get into what tools or materials you'll need to successfully complete the project. Now, something to note, faucets and installation of faucets over time has become a lot more standardized, which is great because that means that the job has become easier and easier. And if you installed a faucet a year ago, you can install a faucet today, and it's basically the same process. Something else to keep in mind is they come with instructions as well. So not only can you watch this video, but you can take a look at the instructions that come with your faucet, and they make it really easy. So I'm excited to show you the new faucet that I just got online. I just got 3 of them. I have a guest bathroom and then 2 in my master that I want to replace. I'm going to show you guys the whole process on how to do it successfully. And then we'll walk through, again, what tools you'll need to make sure that you do the job correctly. So let's get started. All right, so here are the 3 new faucets I got. 1, 2, and 3, and this is a waterfall style faucet, which I'm very excited about. It's going to look very, very sleek and replace the old faucets that I have in the bathroom, which I'll show you in just a moment. But what's really cool is these are high quality steel faucets. I got them on Amazon for only $60. And a secret of the pros is don't shop at Home Depot for faucets. They're going to charge you triple or quadruple for the same faucet you can get on Amazon. And if you like this style, once I take it out and install it, and you'll be able to see everything, if you like it, I'll put a link in the description below and you can get one of these for yourself. So let's take a look at the faucet here. Again, this waterfall style, which I really, really like. I like the hard lines. It's really crisp looking, and I think it's gonna be a nice upgrade for the bathroom. And what else is nice about these sets is that it comes with the plumbing and the drain that is needed for underneath the sink. And we'll show you how to install that. And these are a much nicer pop-up style design, much, much better than the plunger style where you have to, pull it up and down on the back of the sink, because those corrode and rust out over time and then they break. So these last much longer. And then lastly, it comes with all of the water lines that you need for the under sink connections, which make it really nice. You don't have to go out and buy your own, because these are 10, 20 bucks each as well. So it's nice that everything comes as a package set, and you don't need anything else other than some elbow grease and a screwdriver and some other tools that I'll show you. So let's take a look at what tools we need to be successful here. All right, the tools and materials that we're gonna need for the faucet install. A bright light is gonna be very helpful as we're working underneath the vanity here. It gets a little dark. Some silicone or some plumber's putty to make sure that we get that watertight seal around the drain at the end of the project. A screwdriver, because everything requires us to screw the handles in the faucet itself really tight up underneath the countertop. We're gonna need various wrenches potentially if anything is really stuck or corroded. That's gonna be really helpful. In addition to that, some WD-40 to loosen everything up is going to be pretty clutch for us to make sure that we have the ability to get everything undone so we can have a clean playing field to install the new faucet. You might need a set of Allen wrenches as well, also called hex keys. And that is what these faucets use to get the handles on or off. You may or may not need that depending on the type of faucets you have. Also recommend some nice old dirty rags to catch any water spillage and to clean anything around the faucet. The drain, usually when it comes out, is a little nasty, so you're gonna wanna have something handy to clean up this mess. And then lastly, a scouring stick costs about $1 at Walmart or a grocery store or Home Depot, and that could be used to clean up a porcelain sink and get any grime off as a result of removing the old faucet. So I got my light set up nice and bright in here. First thing I wanna do is make sure that these hot and cold water valves are shut off. And one quick tip, most people do not ever touch these. So that means that it could be very tight. And what you don't want to do is go and immediately try to turn it off really hard and have this bust off and have water squirting at you. So what you want to make sure is that they're loosened up. I'm going to use some WD-40 to get in here and make sure that these valves move properly so that we can turn them off and not have any issues with leaks. Just going to let that sit for just a second. And then I can very slowly, again, these may have not been touched in your house for years at a time, and they can corrode and rust and then break off really easily. So you just want to be careful in how you do it. Got the cold water side off. It's just a little quarter turn to the right. I had to use a wrench to do it because, again, as I mentioned, it was pretty stuck. However, I can't get to the hot water side because the plumbing blocks my wrench. So all you need to do is lefty-loosey and then righty-tighty to get plumbing on and off. And I'm gonna pull this off so that I have greater access to everything that we're gonna be doing here. And anyway, we're gonna be removing this. This is that plunger mechanism that I mentioned. This area always rusts out, and I'm excited to replace that with something more robust that's gonna stand the test of time. So time to pull the plumbing out, and then we can access these water lines. Okay, now that we have the water lines off, you'll see under here, I'm trying to get you the best angle I can. I mentioned having a screwdriver. We're gonna screw off these plates here that hold the handles, the hot and cold water handles. And then I'll show you here on the faucet, this is super corroded, and that is gonna be a pain in the ass to get off. I'm kind of laughing, but it's gonna be hugely hard to unscrew that. The whole nut and bolt is just totally corroded. So got my work cut out for me, but now I can start to disassemble stuff. All right, so I use the screwdriver to get this screw undone and this screw undone, and then all you do is spin it until it comes loose, and you can do that on both sides. And then again, depending on how corroded everything is, it may or may not come off super easily, or you might have to use some oil or WD-40 to continue to loosen things up. Some of this stuff is easy, some is not. It's a bit of a process. So I'm getting this off, there we go. And then the handle, this stuff becomes movable now. That's the only thing securing the handle to the vanity or the countertop. And then now it's loose. So I encountered a bit of a problem on the hot water side. I was able to get the cold water shut off, no problem. As you can see, it's closed. There's no water coming out. I cannot get the hot water to budge any farther, and there's just a tiny stream of water that wants to spray through. So until further notice, I got to keep the hot water line connected, and I'll figure out how I'm going to swap the lines quickly once I got the new faucet installed. So again, faucets, water lines, they're tricky. They don't always want to cooperate. You're never going to have a perfect installation on a faucet. So you just got to be aware that that's going to happen. And you can see even there's a little pool of water here. This is off, but it doesn't want to be off entirely. And I don't want to use a wrench to force it and break it because that's going to be even worse. So I got a little bit of thinking to do on how I'm going to replace these water lines and these faucets without causing too much of a watery mess. Now I'm outside here, and one option I do have is to kill the water for the whole house with the outside water main, and that would give me the peace of mind in replacing the water lines so that they're not leaking as I'm trying to do this already complicated project. So I may need to do that so that we don't have water spilling all over the bathroom underneath the vanity. All right, I was able to get this wishbone water line off, and again, I still have the two main water lines, hot and cold, connected here, but this is the water line that goes from the handle on either side into the actual faucet and then into the sink. And I want to show you guys how to get these off. A lot of them are similar. The new one I'm going to be installing is similar to this. It has this clasp up here, and if you push it down together, then you can kind of pop it up into the water line and then pull it down, and then it'll release. So if you leave it like this, it has kind of a gripping function once it's extended like this, but if you push it down, then you can pull it off the water line. And again, every connection is a little bit different, but a lot of the manufacturers are making water lines like this now that are easy to release and easy to install. So just wanted to add that tip. All right, I want to take a look at the view under here. Again, I popped off the water line that connects the handles to the main faucet. And again, however, the bolt up on the main faucet is still extremely corroded. I am not quite sure how I'm going to get that off. You may encounter a similar issue. If you don't, you're very lucky. However, I need to figure out how to get this off so that I can then disconnect the handles officially on either side, and then we can drop in the new faucet and the new handles and then start hooking up everything else. Unfortunately, this is the hardest part of replacing a faucet, is dealing with the old hardware, and you got to get creative in getting this stuff off so you can install the new stuff. If you have a rubber hammer, you can start to tap the faucet. Again, if you're not going to reuse it, you don't care what happens to it, you can really beat it up. I'm trying to loosen up this bolt on the other side. You can see some of the old dust and corrosion start to pop off, but it's going to take a little bit of work for this to come loose. So I'm doing what I can to loosen it up, and then I'm pop back down underneath the vanity and see if I can wrestle it free. All right, I feel like King Arthur pulling the sword from the stone here. This was an absolute pain in the ass. I've never changed a harder faucet here. This thing was so corroded, it would not move at all. I basically had to rip it from the top after loosening it, and that's not recommended because you can damage your sink. This was the flat washer that was underneath the vanity. I had to mangle it to get this thing out. It's probably the hardest faucet I've ever had to change here. Really, really frustrating. So the good news is now I can disconnect everything else. These are almost ready to come out. Can clean up everything, and then we can drop in the new pieces for the new faucet and start to hook everything up. Now the new faucets came with new water lines. So I took the old thread tape off here, and I'm going to put some new thread tape here. And what you want to do is make sure that you go clockwise, because that's the way, the direction that you're going to tighten the water line. So you want to make sure that the tightening motion helps in making the thread tape even tighter. So there we go. And then I'm going to do the other side as well. Just cleaned off the vanity, and take a look at the water lines. There's going to be red for the hot water supply, and you want to match that up with the hot water handle. And there's a couple pieces that you need to connect here. This needs to screw off, as I showed you on the other faucet. And this, when this screws off, this is what's going to create that tight seal up under the vanity and hold everything into place. And you'll notice there's some thread on the end of this water line, and that's going to go right into the bottom where it's also threaded. And then this is going to go in the other wishbone connection that we have that's going to go under the sink. I'm going to do that at the end where we put everything together. But keep in mind, the faucet set comes with instructions that are numbered, very easy to follow along. Just make sure that you do things in order, and it's just kind of like a giant Lego set. You're just putting pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead and start dropping these pieces in, the two handles and then the faucet down the middle, connect all the water lines, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Now these water lines just snap into place. There's two for the handle on the outside, and then one for the faucet right in the middle. So I'll show you. You're just going to press it in like this, and that's going to connect right to that black nozzle right there. So see if I can do it with one hand here. Okay, and now it released, so I know it's connected. So just finishing up tightening the faucet install right here, and what you'll notice is there's no giant nut and bolt that's going to get corroded over time, which is awesome. It's the same setup on all the handles in the faucet, two screws right here, so that makes it really easy to take it on and off when needed. And then this last water supply line right here, that carries the water down the black tube to the actual faucet when you choose the hot or the cold. So I need to hook that up, and then I need to turn on the hot and cold water supplies, and then I need to redo the plumbing. So let's go through that right now. All right, let's install our new drain. I have it right here. This is one piece, and then this is the piece that we're gonna screw up from the bottom. There's an O-ring, and then this tightens everything up from the bottom. So I would just drop it in like this, and then screw this up from the bottom. But remember, we need to make sure that this is watertight. And so I cleaned off all the old putty and silicone, cleaned up some of the grime in there. This also has an O-ring, but we want to make sure that no water is leaking in to the cabinet space below the drain, and that's always a big issue. So what we're going to do is load up this area with either plumber's putty or silicone, and then we're going to drop this in and then screw everything up so that it comes together nice and tight, and then we'll be able to put together the plumbing and then test everything out. All right, that was a little hard to get out of the tube, but I used my finger to spread it all out. So now we have just enough. Now I can drop this in. We'll clean off the excess when we're done, but now I need to pop under the vanity and then screw up from the bottom to make sure everything comes together nice and tightly. All right, so a few hours later, I have finally finished the faucet installation. It was a little bit more challenging than I wanted to, but that's the life of a DIYer. You have to get creative sometimes. So I hope that this video gives you more confidence in tackling a faucet project in the near future. And in the meantime, let's go take a look at the finished product.